course, building the infrastructure of tomorrow requires major investments today. As I said last week, I'm open to ideas about how to pay for this plan, with one exception. I will not impose any tax increases on people making less than $400,000 a year. If others have ideas out there on how to pay for this investment without violating that rule, they should come forward. There's all kinds of opportunities. Just list all the tax breaks that I find difficult to explain. Wealthy deductions, $360 billion if you cap them, top rate of 39%, which it used to be for years, all the way to the Bush administration, almost $250 billion, corporate minimum tax, and the fossil fuel giveaways of $40 billion, et cetera. I could go on. But let me tell you what I proposed, how to do it. We're going to raise the corporate tax rate. It was 35% for the longest time, which was too high. Barack and I thought it was too high during our administration. We all agreed 5 years ago that it should come down somewhat. But the previous administration reduced it all the way down to 21%. What I'm proposing is that we meet in the middle, 28%. 28% would still have lower corporate rates than any time between World War II and 2017. It will generate over $1 trillion in taxes over 15 years. New independent study put out last week found that at least 55 of our largest corporations use the various loopholes to pay zero federal income tax in 2020. It's just not fair. It's not fair to the rest of the American taxpayers. We're going to try to put an end to this. Not fleece them, 28%. If you're a mom and dad, a cop, firefighter, police officer, et cetera, you're paying close to that in your income tax. I've also proposed the global minimum tax, which is being proposed around the world, for U.S. corporations at 21%. Let me tell you what that means. It means that companies aren't going to be able to hide their income in places like the Cayman Islands and Bermuda, in tax havens. We're going to also eliminate deductions used by corporations for offshoring jobs and shifting assets overseas. They offshore the jobs, shift the assets overseas, and then don't have to pay taxes on all they make there. And we'll significantly ramp up IRS enforcement against corporations and the super wealthy who either fail to report their income or underreport it. Estimated that would raise tens of billions of dollars. It adds up to more than what I proposed in just 15 years. It's honest, it's fair, it's fiscally responsible, and it pays for what we need and reduces the debt over the long haul. And by the way, I didn't hear any of our friends who are criticizing this plan say that the corporate tax cut, which added $2 trillion of the debt, the Trump tax cut, $1.9 trillion in debt, wasn't paid for. The vast majority of which went to the top 1% of the wage earners. I didn't hear anybody hollering in this recovery, the so-called, before I became president, this K-shaped recovery, where billionaires made $300 billion more during this period. Where's the outrage there? I'm not trying to punish anybody, but damn it, maybe it's because I come from a middle-class neighborhood. I'm sick and tired of ordinary people being fleeced. Let me close by saying this. Whatever partisan divisions there are around other issues, there don't have to be around this one. The divisions of the moment shouldn't stop us from doing the right thing for the future. These aren't Republican bridges, Democratic airports, Republican hospitals, or Democratic power grid. Think of the Transcontinental Railroad, interstate highway system, or the space race. We're one nation, united and connected. As I said last week, I'm going to bring Republicans to the White House. I invite them to come. We'll have good faith negotiations. And any Republican who wants to get this done, I invite them. We have to get these things done. We're at an inflection point in American democracy. This is a moment where we prove whether or not democracy can deliver, whether it can lay the foundation for an economy built from the bottom up and the middle out, not trickle-down economics from the very top, whether it can lay a good foundation for good jobs in the 21st century economy. I tell the kids, the young people who work for me, told my kids, when I go on college campuses, they're going to see more change in the next 10 years than we've seen in the last 50 years. We're going to talk about commercial aircraft flying at subsonic speeds, supersonic speeds. Be able to figuratively, if we decided to do it, traverse the world in about an hour, travel 21,000 miles an hour. So much is changing. We have got to lead it. I believe democracy can come through when the American people come together. We saw it in the American Rescue Plan. We're seeing it with the Jobs Plan. The American Rescue Plan, which got so badly criticized, how many of my Republican colleagues you've seen gone on your stations or your newspapers and say, boy, people in my state really like it? Because it would be improper, I haven't asked permission. The number of Republicans and Democrats who were hesitant have called me saying, God, this really works. Overwhelming majority of the American people, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, support infrastructure investments that meets the moment. So I urge the Congress, listen to your constituents, and together we can lay a foundation for an economy that works for everyone and allows America to remain the world leader. When we do that, I believe, as I said last week, that in 50 years from now, when people look back, they'll say, this was the moment together that we won America's future. I really believe that. Thank you all. May God bless you, and may God protect our troops. Thank you.
Mr. President, are you willing to go lower than the 28% corporate tax rate?
I'm willing to listen to that. I'm wide open to, but we got to pay for this. We got to pay. There's many other ways we can do it, but I'm willing to negotiate that. I've come forward with the best, most rational way, in my view, the fairest way to pay for it. But there are many other ways as well, and I'm open.
Will you have failed on your promise of bipartisanship if you don't get Republicans on board with this plan, your first plan passed along party lines?
Look, what I said was I would try to work with my friends on the other side. There are things we're working on together, some of which we passed and some we will pass. But the last plan, I laid out what was available, what I was suggesting, and how I deal with it. And a bipartisan group came to see me. And then the Republican group came to see me. And they started off at $600 billion, and that was it. If they'd come forward with a plan that did the bulk of it, it was $1.3 billion or $4, 2 or 3, that allowed me to have pieces of all that was in there, I would have been prepared to compromise. But they didn't. They didn't move an inch. Not an inch. But for example, I am dealing with a bipartisan group that came to see me. Now it's about, 3-4 weeks ago when they came about computer chips and they said, look, we have to have our own supply. We have to work together. We're working on that. Chuck Schumer and I think McConnell are about to introduce a bill along those lines. So I'm prepared to work. I really am. But to automatically say that the only thing that's infrastructure is a highway, a bridge, or whatever, that's just not rational. It really isn't. I think the vast majority of Americans think everything from the sewer pipes to the to the sewer facilities, to the water pipes. I think they're infrastructure. Anyway, thank you all so very much.
What are you going to do on guns, Mr. President?
I'll be talking to you about that, I think, the day after tomorrow.
Ghost guns?
Can you tell us what you told the King of York, Mr. President? Are you concerned about the situation there?
No, I'm not. Ask Cole to tell him that he has a friend in America. Stay strong.